What a lucky guy I am. My hero, to me the greatest philosopher of the 20th century, makes a trip to me, to my radio studio. The only thing is, he doesn't agree that he's a great philosopher. Henny Youngman thinks he's just making jokes. What a thrill it was for me to hear others who picked it up from me using the following in national debates, whether they're debating Vietnam, whether they're debating Nicaragua, the Soviet Union, Yugoslavia, South Africa. You'll hear the name of Henny Youngman invoked. Here's the way I usually do it. If you're a regular listener, you've heard me use Henny Youngman's example. I always say, look, pal, when somebody is telling me that the Israeli occupation on the West Bank is harsh, when somebody is telling me that the blacks of South Africa are worse off than blacks anywhere else in the world, when people tell me stuff like that, I always say, look, buddy, you got to remember Henny Youngman's formulation. Henny Youngman, the greatest philosopher of the 20th century. When anybody asks Henny Youngman, how's your wife, he says, compared to what? I offer that to you listening right now. That is a brilliant geopolitical formulation. Yes, compared to what? The blacks in South Africa are not well off, but compared to the blacks in the surrounding 18 black dictatorships, it's a marvelous life. Yes, Israel has had to do some harsh things in the West Bank, but compared to what? Compared to most military occupations throughout history, that's the Big Rock Candy Mountain for the Arabs in the West Bank, and so on through life. Henny Youngman is the greatest philosopher of our century for giving us that punchline. How's your wife compared to what?
If I had blood, I'd blush.
Henny Youngman, you don't even think that's
Barry,
philosophy.
I know,
you
yes.
think it's just a joke.
Barry, I've listened to you many times, and I realize that it's more than a joke. It's the facts of life, huh?
Have you ever heard me use your name
Yeah,
over
sure.
there like
Yeah,
that?
cut it out. Listen, you have some folks down at Pompano. Sophie's your mother's name, right?
How do you know?
I'm a little mind reader. I'll read your mind. It's half price. Yeah, my friend has a restaurant there, Zen Art, at the dining gallery, and he lives above your mother and father in the same building. And he said to say hello.
Cannot wait to call her and tell her. You know, I love to break up dinner parties with unbelievable little facts. I broke one up the other day just by clearing my throat when they were talking about famous comics and pointing out that Henny Youngman was born in England.
Yeah, I was born in London.
Yeah.
And I just came from meeting Glenda Jackson, the English actress. Do you know her?
Uh-huh.
She came to my home and waited downstairs for me with a friend. I was supposed to go to Carnegie Deli with her for lunch. But I said I have a previous engagement with you, so they're having lunch there, but I said hello. And she's a lovely woman outside of being a great actress.
You know, people once upon a time said, oh, when the comic industry dried up in the Catskills, that was the end. There's no place except television. You staggered me at a bar mitzvah. You and I were together at the bar mitzvah of one of Sid Bernstein's sons.
Yeah, that's right.
And I got a whole new vision of the comic landscape here. You can be very active and make a great deal of money and entertain a lot of people without ever going near television.
That's right. But we have to get on once in a while. You have to get on so people don't forget you. If you're not on television, the public don't know where you're at, whether you're still in business. And it's very necessary to be on all kinds of shows like yours. We're lucky enough to get on with you, so we let your audience know that we're still alive and we're still in business. And Milton Berle and I just teamed up for the first time in Westbury Music. That's out in Westbury. It has 3,000 seats. And Milton and I have been ribbing each other for years. But now we're a team. We're going to work together in we packed the joint, 3 shows, and now everybody's excited about the new team, Youngman and Berle. We've been around for years. He's 77, I'm 79.
Are you 79?
Sure. We've been doing jokes for all these years. We've been ribbing each other at different friars' roasts all over the country. Berle louses me up, I louse him up a little bit. I say, Milton Berle's his own worst enemy, not while I'm alive. Anyway, we both are being submitted all over. We're already booked in the Atlantic City resorts, July 19th for a week, and so on and so forth. The William Morris office are very excited about us. I said, I think we should get a picture deal. There's no more Dean and Jerry. There's no more Abbott and Costello.
Bob and Bing. Yeah.
Bob and Bing, and I think that we're right for a movie, and we'll probably get one. And we've been around all these years.
I thought you had to be as old as George Burns to do that.
Yeah, George. Well, George did vaudeville. He did all the things we did.
when Milton Berle celebrated, well, when they put his old television shows into the Broadcast Museum, I saw him interviewed on television, and somebody asked him, the reporter asked him, Lee Leonard asked him, have you ever, did you really steal jokes? He said, no, but I used to find a good many before they got lost.
Yeah. Well, he was in vaudeville years ago, so there were about 6 vaudeville theaters in New York. So, yeah, he was a nervy guy. You know, he had no ethics at all, as we call him. He sent his brother and a couple of people around to all the theaters. Wherever there was a comedian on the bill.
Now, wait, this is your partner you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, I know his history. I've been watching him for 40 years.
What if he hears that you said this on my
I hope
program?
he hears it because he knows the truth. And he used to send different people around to the theaters to see what the other comedians were doing. And they would bring the whole act back. He had guys writing shorthand. He would take the best of each and do them. And got away with it those years. Although people knew about it, and he wasn't embarrassed. He just did it. He was a nervy guy.
It's fun to get musicians from the 40s to talk about the musicians and the music of today. How do you feel about the comedy of today?
Well, look, everybody has its own, everything has a market. You want to tell dirty jokes, you got a market. You want to tell clean jokes, there's a market. There's different ranges of the public that understand certain things, and if you can get one group that like you can make a good living at it. Well, the black comedians, Eddie Murphy, who's a millionaire already, he's not going to worry about what I say or what you say about him anymore. He's got it made. He's a very bright young guy that walked into business and made it overnight. And looks like they're going to protect him pretty good. They got him signed to big contracts with big money, and they will get the best writers in the world for him. He's had 3 hit pictures, and he don't have to worry, I don't think, for a long time. But when he goes out by himself, I understand he's a little raunchy. I've never seen him. But if that's what they came in to see, they should know it ahead of time. The buyer beware.
Every golfer knows his handicap. I think that's what it is. Every comic I've met knows, whether he'll be honest in telling you or not is another question. Every comic knows his threshold of dirtiness.
You're right.
The blue line.
We only do what we call off-color things at the Friars roasts. Everybody ribs each other. And
That's not broadcast.
No.
I once asked Jimmy Durante, well, I had read about it before I asked him. The dirtiest joke he ever told was he heard about a girl who had a room with running water, and he said she better get rid of that Indian. Now,
Yeah.
that's as dirty as Jimmy Durante ever got. And look what
Yeah,
a
he
great...
didn't have to be dirty. He was a lovable guy. And he was great. There were great days with Jimmy around.
How dirty do you get?
I don't get dirty at all. I don't do anything pertaining to dirty jokes at all. I don't need them.
You were in a movie, or they starred you. They had a character playing you in a Broadway show. It was about Lenny Bruce.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when we get back together after a short business break, I want to tell you, did you see that show?
Yeah, I saw it.
Well, I can't wait to hear your reaction to the role that they gave you in the life of Lenny Bruce. First, I'm Barry Farber, and I never met Lenny Bruce. I never saw Lenny Bruce. I was never exposed to the humor of Lenny Bruce, and I don't want to cuddle up to Lenny Bruce fans by saying I admired his work. I was not too fond of what I heard about his work. It seemed to be gratuitously vulgar for the sake of being shocking. If that shows that I'm an insensitive lout who did not deserve survival into the 1960s and 1970s, and go ahead and lock me up. I'm the world's foremost authority of my opinion, and I did not have a high one of Lenny Bruce. I met his mother and fell in love with her. After the show came out, somebody called and said, Barry, Lenny Bruce's mother is in town. Would you like to interview? And I said, yes. And she and I, hugged and kissed when we left. We had such a rapport, and I have such a feeling for her and for her life. But on stage, I saw them reviling my beloved Henny Youngman in a show about Lenny Bruce. I think the name was just Lenny. I thought they would disguise a name, invent some comedian, like Dusty Rhodes was the invention of, I think he was supposed to be an Arthur Godfrey type in Facing the Crowd. Bud Schulberg came up with the name Dusty Rhodes. I thought they'd come up with another name. They did not come up with another name. The name was Henny Youngman, and he was sort of tall and good-looking and imposing and commanding like the real Henny Youngman. And Henny, they smeared you in that play. They tried to make you look like the heavy. Are you aware
Oh
of that?
yeah, I was always corny to them, you know. And I used to say,
Not corny, not corny.
well, I wasn't.
What you were to them was traditional, respecting the mores of the establishment,
Right.
and trying to take Lenny Bruce's pickaxe out of his hands. See, he was going to take a pickaxe and go after the establishment and the totems and all the people who had
And he
been...
did it. Today it would be nothing because people are doing it, you know. But Lenny was a very clever guy. He was way, way ahead of his time. He was doing things that were outrageous. He would louse up the Pope, crazy red shoes and the outfit the Pope wore and all. And I try to tell him, I don't think anybody understands you. I don't think they know what you're talking about because people aren't that brilliant to pick up satire at the time. And that's what he was doing. He was doing satire.
But he had
And
a
I told him,
cult.
I said, I don't think you know what you're doing. You're lousing up people like the Pope. Now, you know the Pope is the top man, and you're going to get in trouble. A lot of people love the Pope. They're religious, they're Catholic. And it happened in Chicago where he started to do things about the Pope, and the police came in. The Irish cops came in and closed the place and put him away in jail. It wasn't that, to them it was serious, you know. And he just wouldn't come down to earth at times. You know, you got to do something for the common masses, too. I tell people the jokes I do, they're all pictures, they're all cartoons. If I say a man walked up to me on Broadway and said, "You see a cop around?" He says, "No." He says, "Stick him up." It's a cartoon. Every joke is a picture to me. You know, Panhandle said to me, "I haven't eaten in 2 days." I said, "You should force yourself." You know, these are cartoons. Now, if he's going to talk about the Pope and talk about things that nobody understands, I said, well, you'll have a following. You'll probably have a cult, as we call it. And nobody listens to me, so they do what they want to do. And he seems to have become famous to a certain element. I don't know why. He never did anything great in show business. He didn't do anything that was outstanding. He wasn't a great actor. He was a nice young guy doing stuff that was a little raunchy. It was dirty at times, with dirty words. And I couldn't figure him out why he was doing it, but I went down to the nightclub to see him. There was nobody there. He couldn't draw people at the time. And then they did a Broadway show about him.
Wow, what an interesting perception of Lenny Bruce. The prevailing perception, Henny, is that Lenny Bruce, using the weapon of comedy, fired salvo after salvo into the superstructure of the fat, lazy, racist, asinine, bigoted, fascist establishment and brought it down in flames.
Yes.
The liberating hero. And here you don't even get excited about Lenny Bruce. You just say, nice guy.
I don't look up to people like that. I don't think they're better than anybody. There was no competition at the time, so how can he be better than anybody? He did his thing, and if it worked, fine. You want to make a living at doing dirty jokes, that's up to you.
The two little jokes that you have told us so far, let's study them. Do you see a cop around? No. Stick him up. I haven't had anything to eat all day. You should force yourself. Those jokes are joined together at the hip. They are the same style of
Could
joke.
be, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, does that mean that you make them, or that people, just like people could copy the Bill Blass style?
People write jokes.
Ah, okay.
Jokes are written. I've been lucky in picking out the ones I like. If I don't laugh at it, I won't do it. Like I got a joke about, I got in the airlines, California, and I said to the clerk behind the counter, I have 3 pieces of luggage. I want one piece to go to Cleveland. I want one piece to go to Miami. I want one piece to go to Toronto. He said, we can't do that. I said, you did it last week.
Once I asked Liberace to tell me about the worst fight he ever had with his mother. He did not play ball. He smiled. He knew it was a good question, but he didn't play with it. He didn't want to. Why should he help Barry Farber at the risk of losing his image? I don't blame him for not playing with it.
I got a picture of him and me in the log cabin in Jersey. We both were working there.
Well,
Liberace and myself.
All right, let's see if I can get you to do for me what Liberace refused to do for me. He would not tell me about the worst fight he ever had with his mother. You are known as the king of the one-liners. That's your fame around the world. What is the longest joke you ever told?
Oh, I tell a lot of long jokes, like I just told one. I fill in.
You call
with
that a
those.
long one?
Yeah, the one with the 3 pieces of luggage.
That too is a long one.
Yeah.
It's more than one line, but it's not long.
Well, in my opinion, it is. Mm-hmm. I just got back from Israel. But I tell his joke. Fellow drives up to the cop in Israel. He says, "Can I park here?" He says, "No." He says, "How about these other cars?" They didn't ask. That's a long joke to me.
Every airplane has a certain number of hours and minutes of gasoline in its tanks, just automatically. How many minutes do you have in
I have
here?
2 hours of material I can do.
You could stand up and just do what they call shtick for 2
That's
hours?
right, 2 hours. I got parodies. I got jokes. You know, Sinatra, we were at the Paramount once, and he had been at the dentist all night, so he was knocked out. He couldn't come down to do the shows. So I got on the stage. I did an hour and a half. One day I did an hour and a half waiting for Billy Eckstein to show up. He was asleep and they couldn't get him up. This was up where he lived in Harlem. By the time they got him down, I did 1 hour and a half on a stage, and I begged everybody, wait, he'll be here soon. I stayed on for about an hour and a half.
Oh, that must take it right out of your jiggity.
Oh, yeah, I did everything I knew. And people were hollering out jokes. Hey, do that joke. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of stuff. Then I told some stories. I told about Sinatra. We were with Tommy Dorsey many years ago. He was with the group. And he quit. He had a fight with Tommy, but I used to be the buffer in between them at the time. When I had an argument, I'd get in with some jokes and sort of straighten things out in my own way. And he quit, and a guy shows up in Akron. He hitchhiked out to replace Sinatra. Dick Hames. He was in a T-shirt. And Frank wouldn't get out of it.
I know that you're from England. I know that Dick Hames was from Argentina.
Yeah, right, right. I just saw his ex-wife, Fran Jeffries. She was appearing at the Golden Nugget down in Atlantic City.
I got all dreams of ever becoming a comic smashed out of me. I think I should tell you the whole story because there may be would-be comics listening, and I don't want to discourage anybody. I just want to tell you what you're up against. First, I'm Barry Farber, and we are a positive thinking country. We pretend we like positive thinking, and I think that's mostly good, but I don't think the negativists should be locked in the closet. I want to save some livelihoods right now because I want to tell you what you aspiring young comics are up against. Listen to the whole thing because there's a punchline. Once I was in the Catskills, Gross Singers, and a man walked on stage. He didn't look too funny to me. And there was just something about his first 10 seconds of walking on the stage that I thought betokened disaster. I didn't think he was going to be good at all. I mean, there was flop sweat even before he warmed up. Well, he was toying. He was toying. This guy, like a snail uncoiling, like a turtle coming out, like a moth breaking out of its cocoon and becoming an eagle. This guy just sucked everybody up the exhaust pipe. He was great. He did jokes, he did routines, he did ethnic, he did impersonation, he did insult, he did self-deprecation, he did satire, he did punchlines. And at the end, I was on such a high. He had about a 45 minutes or an hour performance. 5 minutes later, from 5 minutes later until this minute, I do not know his name. I do not know his first name. I do not know his second name. I don't think I could recognize either his first name or his second name from a list of 20. I don't think I could recognize his face from a police lineup. Now, if somebody can wipe an audience out, and me first of all, and be that great and that forgettable, then I just offer that to the world of those who want to be comics. Go ahead and good luck. But that's what you're up against.
Oh, sure, you got everything against you, and I tell that to people. I say, if you got money to eat, that's the first thing. Now you're going to run around, you're going to hit all the offices, you got to have material in the first place. You got to see if you're funny. You can't be funny at a house party and expect to be funny in Omaha, where they don't know you. And it's a very, very tough business. It's like, I guess, like every other business. You got to start, find out how to do it, get jokes together. I must have started 40 comedians out. When I was on the Kate Smith show years ago, that was a radio show. I had 7 writers, and every week they'd all bring in the jokes. I would pick the ones I liked, and I stayed on there for 2 years with Kate Smith. So there must have been 40 comics that copied these jokes down every week from the program. They all went in business. Where would they get material? They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know how to get it, how to buy it, and I had to learn how to do it. So I think I started Buddy Hackett, Jan Murray, Jack Carter, Red Buttons. I must have started them all. They were all
If I
nothing.
were to go to them, Red Buttons, Jack Carter, who was the first one you mentioned?
Buddy Hackett.
Buddy Hackett, right?
Yeah.
Buddy Hackett. If I were to go to them and say, did Henny Youngman play any role in your beginning? Would they acknowledge it, or would they?
I don't know.
Would they say
I don't
Henny
know.
who?
All I know is that I have very few friends amongst them. I talked to them, but I resented them taking all my material. I'd go into a nightclub and hear them do all my stuff, and I resented it. But later on in life, I realized these fellas had no money to buy material, so they took anyway. It's public domain. Once you do it, it's public domain, and you can't stop people from doing it.
Well, you just told us that you got material from others.
I bought it.
I see. You
They were
paid for
hired.
it. You paid for it.
They were hired to write for me by the K. Smith office.
How did you get? Was that the first big break for you to get on the
I
Case
think
Smith
so,
show?
yeah. Sure, you hit the whole nation. I was what we call an overnight sensation and didn't know why. I told some jokes, you know. And I brought home a check for $250. My mother says, "Since when are you funny?" I was never funny at home. I used to get out every morning, try to find a job, run around, hit the Paramount, sit in the audience. But I don't know, the whole thing is like a dream to me. I never prepared. I never said I was going to be a comedian. I was a musician. I had a band. We used to play weddings and bar mitzvahs and wakes. We played everything, you know.
Well, how did you get the job with?
I don't
Case
know.
Smith?
I was at the Yacht Club on 52nd Street, which was a very small club. But I became a hit overnight there. One of those things. I came from nowhere. And overnight, a new sensation. I'd been saving material for years. When I was in high school, I was thrown out once in a while in class for being funny. I found out there was vaudeville. So to kill 2 hours, I would find a vaudeville theater so my parents wouldn't know I was in trouble. And the admission was 15 cents. So I used to take my lunch money, go and see a show for 2 hours, see all the acts, 5 acts, and I probably would take the best jokes. I always wanted to be what we call a life of the party guy. So I had all these jokes I saved up for years. So when I went on the air the first time, I was supposed to do 6 minutes. They let me do 10 minutes. Ted Collins was the case manager. Later on, he managed me for many years. So I was like an overnight hit, and I didn't know why. I had to go out and find out you need writers. I didn't have enough material. I had material for 3 shows. And luckily, writers came to me. And I made deals, $50 a week, $1 a joke. But I was getting $500 a week. 20% went to Ted Collins. So I had about $400 to work with. So everybody made a living with me. Some of them got $1 a joke, some of them got 50. And that's how we all got along. I used to get side jobs. I used to get sales meetings, trade shows. So I'd make a living from those jobs. At the end of the week, I had no money left. I gave it all away for jokes.
We know the highest price ever paid for a painting or a postage stamp. Now, what's the highest price you ever heard?
I don't know. I
of
paid
for a joke?
$1,500 for 6
You
minutes.
paid $1,500. Oh,
Yeah,
for 6 minutes.
Not
material.
those years. Not those years. But if I had to go on an important show today, I call the Coast, and I call one of the writers I used to know, who used to work for me, and they write jokes. They know my style. They know it works, and they think my way. And we pick together 6 minutes. I add a few jokes I have put away, and I go on and do 6 good minutes. But I think it's like the Ed Sullivan Show. I did 28 of those. Had to come up with material all the time. And I still gather today where every day there's something new comes in. I call California, they call me. What's the latest jokes around, you know.
And you can't use the dirty ones.
I don't
Some
wanna
of the
use
some
them.
of the dirty ones are so good.
Oh, yeah, sure. We tell them privately, you know.
Do you computerize your jokes? Do you file
Well,
them?
I have a lot of wife jokes. I do my doctor jokes. I do my brother-in-law jokes. I do my grandson Larry. My grandson Larry now, Larry Kelly, has dial-a joke all over the country. The phone companies broke up, so we have the rights to dial a joke in different parts of the country. My grandson Larry Kelly, I think you know him.
I do, yeah.
He is selling dial a joke in different towns. I record the jokes. He's found a machine with a computer, and every day new jokes are put in the computer. So when you call up every day, you get 5 new jokes. Then a commercial goes on the end, whoever they sell it to.
How much of your material just occurred to you is your own?
Very little.
Very little?
I don't write jokes. I edit them. I can take a joke, pull it apart, and get the best of the joke by not making it too long. I don't like to stay on it too long. And I found out that works for me. I just did it automatically. I never figured it out.
So whoever called you the king of the one-liners...
Walter Winchell.
Oh, he was the first one?
Walter Winchell came in to see me, and I did a lot of one-line jokes. So he gave me a title, King of the One-Liners. Take My Wife, Please happened at the Kate Smith show. At the last minute, my wife, Sadie, came in. We've been married 57 years this week, incidentally.
I hope the marriage lasts.
Thank you. I'll fake it. She came in about 7:30. She needs tickets. She's frantic. She's got 7 women with her. I got the tickets from the ushers. He used to save me some tickets. I'd give him a couple of bucks. So I wanted to get rid of her at the time. I had to go on at 8 o'clock. I'm still putting the show together. So I said, take my wife, please. And that thing is stuck. It's like a miracle.
So that was yours. So your most famous line was yours.
It's known all over the world now. I'm in London. Hey, Henny, take my wife. I'm walking down the street.
Boy,
take my wife, please. Is that a funny bit?
That's interesting. So in other words, when you said that, when those words came out of your mouth, you didn't mean it comedically. You were saying, hey, get my wife off my hands. I got to go on the air.
That's right, sure. And that's how it happened.
Why,
It's a miracle.
No, it's a serendipity.
I hear it all day long. I eat in that restaurant once in a while.
You know Irving Caesar?
Yeah.
Irving Caesar wrote Tea for Two that very same way. That's the best-selling tune of all time. Yours is the most popular joke. Take My Wife, Please is probably the most recognizable.
I get it all day from truck drivers, from people on the street.
Wow. And neither meant to be what it was. Vincent Youmans woke Irving Caesar from a nap one day and said, Cease, I got a tune, put some words to it. And Irving said, please, Vince, I'm tired. He said, no, Cease, listen around now. And I said, look, please, I'll do it tomorrow, I'm so tired. We were resting up for a party. Gertrude Lawrence was having a party. And Irving Caesar wanted to take his nap before Gertrude Lawrence's party. And Vincent Youmans importuned him, begged him to write some lyrics to this da 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 da, and then double time. Da 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 da. So Irving said, well, I'll write a dummy tune. I'll write a dummy lyric. A dummy lyric means something you're not going to use, something you're just going to keep for the cadence to remember.
To please somebody.
Exactly. So Irving wrote, picture you upon my knee with 2 for 2 and 2 for 3 and you for me and you for me alone. And that stuck and became the #1 tune of all time. Just like Take My Wife, Please. Right back to that intersection.
Everybody clowns about that song. 5 o'clock we'll get up and bake a sugar cake.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's going to get up 5 in the morning to bake a sugar cake? Ridiculous.
Everybody's got his own thrill. We'll be right back. First, I'm Barry Farber, and he has been the king of one-liners for very long. His kingdom spans the earth. His name is Henny Youngman. He doesn't insult. He doesn't do dirty material. He just stands up and entertains people, and apparently it works. Have you ever worked in a foreign country where English is not the language?
Oh, no. Nobody would book you there, you know.
Yeah.
I play London, play the Palladium there. I talk about the family. They understand me over there. I've been there 8 times now at the Palladium, and I do pretty good over there. They sort of dig me over there.
You don't have a British accent anymore.
Well, I was 6 months when I came over.
That explains it, right. The era when there was such a thing as vaudeville had a tremendous advantage over anything today, because on television you tell a joke one time, you can't tell it ever again.
Well, you can do it amongst your appearances.
Oh, sure, yeah, but I mean, you can't do it on television again.
Well, you can. If you're on another show at another time, everybody don't hear you, you know.
Well, I know, but there's still that shelf life of a joke on national
Well, the joke
radio.
is always, if the joke works, it's a gem. I call every joke a gem. When I say I take my wife, I said to my wife, where do you want to go for your anniversary? She said, I want to go somewhere I've never been before. I said, try the kitchen. That works all over. I can do that in Omaha, I can do it in Cleveland, I can do it in... My son Gary just made a picture, incidentally. He's a big fan of yours. Made a picture called The Doorman. It's about 3 doormen who get murdered. It's a murder mystery, and he just completed the picture down in Atlanta, where I went to visit your brother. Gary just got through with the movie. He's putting music to it now. He's got a good picture. He's a director, my son. I know him personally.
When you get up there in front of an audience, can you tell by their response whether you're in London or New York or where you are in the English-speaking world, just by the reaction of the crowd?
Sure, I can tell immediately with my first joke. I go out there, hit them right in the head. I don't waste time. I don't build up. I do the good things first, and I keep them going. A lot of people start off with lightweight things. I don't believe in that. When I came out, I said, just came from Hollywood. I say, I got a call from the studio. Henny, how much you want to do a picture with Farber Fawcett? I said, $50,000. They called back. They said, how about $20,000? I said, I'll pay it. I try to hit them right on the bat.
Do you change your, like a good quarterback facing an unexpected defensive line may change his act, may change his material?
I mix it up once in a while, but I got opening jokes. I got jokes all through. Sometimes I change them and put them in a different spot. When I talk about my grandson Larry complains about headaches, I've told him 100 times when to jump out of bed, his feet first.
The remarkable.
I do plain jokes. Like my daughter Marilyn, she's with Pack Brothers, you know them? Marilyn Kelly. And I had to go over there and take some pictures the other day. They wanted some pictures for Atlantic City. And I had a big fan over there who told me jokes that I did 20 years ago. Can you imagine that? He remembers the jokes.
What I can't imagine is that you just stand up and tell jokes. That would be like a black and white television show making it in a world of color. Today, comics are acrobats. They pull out harmonicas. They do all kinds of...
I pull out a fiddle.
Tell me more.
I use my fiddle in my act. I studied 7 years in vain in Spain. I studied. You know, when Isaac Stern heard me play what he said, break his fingers.
No.
No, but I use the fiddle. I mean, it comes in very handy. You know, when the Russians came from Europe, when I got out those years, they weren't harassed with music. They could listen to music. Nobody bothered them, so they heard all the fine records, the opera stars. And when they came to America, they wanted their children to be Heifetz. My folks made me study fiddle. And I'm using it today. It came in handy.
You actually learned how to play the fiddle?
Sure. I studied for 7 years. That's how I started my band.
You're 79 years old, Henny.
Sure.
Don't you get tired?
Now and then. But I do 15 dates a month. I appear at banquets, sales meetings, trade shows, parties. I do commercials. I just did Menons. Take my Menons, please. I did a New York telephone commercial. I did if I get 8 hours sleep, I'm pretty good.
You were telling me what some of the comics are making today. You said $50,000 a night.
Yeah, Milton Berle makes about $50,000 a week, but don't forget, after what he spends on material, he only winds up with $50,000. No, but they're all making important money today. Rodney Dangerfield, he's caught on. He's a big hit all over. He gets $50,000 a night in some areas, in auditoriums. And you got your Richard Pryors, you got all those fellas are all doing very well.
I once asked Dizzy Gillespie where was the toughest audience he'd ever faced. And without even thinking, he said, Baltimore. When they like you, they clap. One clap, that's all. Where do you think the people are toughest to please?
I don't think they're tough. I think all audiences are the same. They all will come in to hear you. You got them licked that way, right? They come in, you got them there. You know, you got them captured. And I try to do my best. I do 45 good minutes. And I think they enjoy it. I want to make them feel good, and that's the answer to the whole thing. You pick up a couple of bucks here and there, take care of your family, and what else you want, you know. Got to stay healthy, and that's the answer.
When we reconvene for our finale, I want to know which other comic gave you the most laughs over those 79 years of yours. First, Henny Youngman, who was your favorite comic?
Well, Milton Berle, I must tell you that. When I was a kid, many years ago. Milton.
Now, don't pull that. Don't pull that.
Yeah, Milton.
When you were a kid, you used to watch Milton Berle.
Yeah, but, well, I met Milton Berle. I was a printer. My father made me learn printing. I went to Brooklyn Vocational Trade School. And I learned how to be a printer. So I had a little concession on 6th Avenue and 45th, printing while you wait. If you came up, I'd print 200 cards for $1 while you waited. I had a machine there, and I learned how to set type. And a fellow used to come to visit me, some young guy. He was at Low State Theater. In between shows, 4 shows, he went for a walk. So he came up to 6th Avenue and 45th, where I had the middle of a penny arcade. I was in the front. And he started to talk to me. He had some cards printed. We got to know each other. And I gave him some jokes. He did some of my jokes, Berle. Then later on, I followed him around. I became a fan of his without being in the business yet, just being a kid, you know. And Berle was very nice to me at all times. He encouraged me. He liked what I did. He liked the jokes I gave him, and he laughed at me, and he let me hang around him. So Milton was one of the first guys I ever met in the business. I didn't know anybody. And Willie Howard, I love Willie Howard. And Skelton, I met them all, and they're all good for what they do. George Burns, and they're all great.
Remember Harry Hirschfield?
Oh, yeah. I used to sit with him on daises all the time. He was a very clever man.
I got a theory. I'll bet your best friend was the one who told the longest jokes. Let me explain why. You were correctly named by Walter Winchell the king of the one-liners, because even your jokes that are more than one line aren't but 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. That's the longest joke I ever heard you tell.
They're all one-liners, though.
Exactly. Now, I'll bet you that the one who told the longest, I bet your best friend is probably Myron Cohen, because his stories are endless.
Great.
You two aren't competing. He's a raconteur and you're a one-liner.
Right, but he's great. Myron got the flavor of that type of garment center worker who used to tell jokes and not even know it. He was funny without knowing it. And Myron's brilliant, you know. He and Lou Holtz were the 2 guys that made a name in that type of business. Lou Holtz used to tell those long jokes, but on the way he'd get a lot of laughs. On the way to the end of the joke, he would add lines that would help the joke along. Like Ed Wynn was a great comedian. He would tell a joke, and if the joke didn't work, he had a little propeller on top of his head. That would go on. His fly would light up or something. He would make the joke work.
He bought insurance.
That's right. That's the word I was looking for.
Henny, I am going to sit in the audience one night and steal as many of your jokes as I possibly can.
I'll be glad to give them to you. You don't have to steal them.
Did you jog? Did you work out? What is the secret?
No, I don't do anything lately. I walk down to Friars Club. I come back. I go to the Carnegie Deli for breakfast, and I go to a couple of local restaurants in our neighborhood, the Italian Pavilion. So I got all the restaurants on my block, West 55th Street.
Well, Gene Shepard once said that the stage delicatessen was the only place in the world you could walk into at 4 o'clock in the morning and be guaranteed of meeting 5 comedians named Shecky.
Right.
At least at the Carnegie, you got pretty good chances of meeting one named Henny.
Well, I like the guy who runs the Leo Stein. He's a very gracious guy, and he's glad to see you, and he picks up a tab. He has respect for people. I mean, it's nice to have a place that used to be like Lindy's years ago.
Henny, to be continued. I'm among those who love you, and I'm proud to be this close to you for this many minutes.
Thank you.
I'm Barry Farber. Keep asking questions.
Hey, that was good.